जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय श्री श्री राधा कुंज बिहारी की। जय श्री श्री गौनता की। श्रील प्रभुपाद की। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Today we are speaking on the topic of converting misfortune into good fortune. Or in other words, how to accept insults as mercy. It's Srimad Bhagavatam is glorified amongst all the Puranas as the crest jewel Purana. There is a story of how once when all the demigods came to Brahma and asked him about amongst all the Puranas which is the best one, because the Vedic literatures are so many and we may not be able to complete reading all of them in our entire life also. So then when he was having a taraju, balance, so he was weighing each of them and finding out. So he kept Bhagavatam on one side, and when he kept all the other Vedic literature on the other side, the Bhagavatam was so heavy, none of them could match it. Even all of them put together could not match it. Bhagavatam was on one side. That is why it is called as the Amalam Purana. Amala means what? Mala means impurity. Amala means pure, completely pure. In English, Prabhupada uses the word spotless, spotless Purana. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, it is called spotless for one very important reason, that it does not give any sub-religious principles. It gives the ultimate religion, which is to love Krishna. And all the other religions are short of that. Like you all have heard before, fear, duty, desire, and all these platforms. So many Puranas talking about these things. So, Bhagavatam is the ultimate, but one has to be very fortunate to get a Vaishnava Guru in life, and one has to come across Srimad Bhagavatam, and even after coming across the Guru, Sadhu Shastra, everything, one has to get the understanding about it, what it is talking about. And even after understanding, one should be willing to repose faith in it fully, and learn wonderful principles. Like in Bhagavatam, we learn how should a devotee act in different situations. How should a devotee deal with non-devotees? How should a devotee deal with other devotees? How should a devotee deal with superiors? How should a devotee deal with subordinates? How should a devotee deal with Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And how to deal with atheists and non-devotees. All this is explained very vividly. And how to behave in especially complex situations that may come in our lives. Because we are living in a world which is full of uncertainties. Nobody can say what will happen next moment, what will happen tomorrow. Nobody can say. Like some of our devotees had booked a ticket to go to Bombay. Some 5-6 devotees, they had to go to Bombay. There was some camp going on in Pune. So they took permission from me, can we go? I said yes. But the next day morning they continued to attend the camp. I asked what happened? They said bomb blast in Bombay. Bombay. So they said we couldn't go. So sometimes we book tickets and we are not able to go because there are so many uncertainties in this world. Nobody can say next moment what will happen in this world. So because this world is full of uncertainties, there is also fear in the heart of every living being. The fear principle is very prominent in this world. You see, animals may not know alphabets, A, B, C, D and all that, but they know what is fear. Birds know what is fear. Any creature in this world know what is fear. And living constantly in a state of fear and tension, how can it give happiness to anybody? And the main reason for this fear is bodily consciousness. Bodily consciousness means to identify with the changing things. To the degree you identify with the changing things of the world, to that degree we will be fearful. You see, what are the changing things in this world? One thing is our changing material body, isn't it? Another thing is the changing relatives. Like, great-grandfather passed away, grandfather will pass away, then mother and father will pass away. When one of the ISKCON leaders, when sannyasis passed away, Indradumna Swami was telling to Jayadut Swami, oh, all our senior god brothers are passing away one by one. You see, it is so painful to see. Then how years are passing by so fast. And Jayadut Swami laughed and he said, yes, they have passed away. And then a time will come, and my turn will come, then your turn will come also. And that is material world, he said. And he said there is nothing to lament about it. It is an inevitable fact of life. That everybody will have to, come here. It's like a drama stage, this world. Come, perform drama. And you can't be performing drama all through. Only a certain time is allotted. And then once the period is over, you quit. But how well we perform this life will decide our future, isn't it? So, when we are put in a certain type of situation, how we are likely to behave, it is very much easy to say how a conditioned soul will behave. It's a typical behavior of conditioned soul. Because conditioned souls, in general, have a nature to be very selfish. They worry only about themselves. They don't worry about others. And when it comes to life itself, then what to speak of life? Everybody, that is called as jivitasha. Jivitasha means desire to preserve one's own life. But sometimes more than life, insult is painful. It's very pricking. Just like, you see, once when Dakshayani is who? Parvati. She actually wanted to go to attend some yajna at the house of her father, Daksha. But Lord Shiva was not for it. Lord Shiva said, why do you want to go to your father's house? Your father has behaved in insulting ways towards your family. Why should you go? So she actually controlled herself, but then she saw in the Akash Marg many planes were flying. All the demigods were going along with their wives and family members to attend the yajna. Zoom, 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 one after another, so many planes. And then she saw all of them. And she again told Shiva, you see, you are a mendicant. You are like a mendicant and ascetic. You have no attraction for fairs and festivals and such kind of occasions. You are just sitting under a tree and doing tapasya. But I am after all a woman. I am very fond of such festivals. And my mind is driving me mad. Because right now I am thinking all my sisters have come to my father's house, they must be celebrating. And I am alone here, with you. So, and then she said, what is wrong if you go for this function? Again she asked. Again Shiva said the same thing. She said, and Shiva said, we were never invited to this festival. Why should we go? She said, you see, when somebody is a very near and dear relative, there is no need of any invitation. We are so near dear relative that invitation was not given to us. Like for example, if you have a marriage of your brother, you are not going to make an invitation and give it to your sister. Please come for the marriage. It is understood that she has to be a part of the marriage. Similarly, we are so close to my father that he must have thought we are such intimate relatives, we don't need an invitation. And Lord Shiva was very intelligent naturally. He said, you see, if somebody is a very near and dear relative and they love us very much, certainly we would go for such an occasion. But your father has not given invitation not because we are intimate, but he has spoken pricking words, very severe words. And he said, these words are more sharper than the arrow that pierces the heart. The arrow that pierces the heart is not as painful as the words spoken sharply. He said, and especially by one who is our relative, he said. If somebody, unknown person gives you insulting words, you may just ignore it in the bus stand or railway station. But somebody who is your very close relative has spoken to you like this, then it enters deeply in our hearts. And he said, one should not go to places where one is not welcomed, where one is not wanted. So your father doesn't like me, nor does he want me, so I have decided not to go. But if you want to go, you may go. It's ultimately up to you. But I can confidently tell you, you will be insulted. You will not be respected. So, Dakshayani, this Parvati was looking at Lord Shiva, again looking on the other side, back and forth, and he was torn between the two in a sort of tussle. At last she decided that I'll go. When she decided to go, immediately the Nandi and all the other associates of Lord Shiva, they all saw that Mother Parvati wants to go. Immediately the bull got ready. Then she sat on the bull, and Lord Shiva's associates gave her a parrot which she holds in her hand. And then they didn't have even an iota of doubt that they decided to accompany Parvati to go with her. Why? Now somebody may say, if she has gone against the word of Shiva, then why did they accompany Parvati? But actually they accompanied knowing well that Parvati is the sweetheart of Lord Shiva. She is in the heart of Shiva naturally. And protecting her would surely please Lord Shiva. Knowing that they all accompanied Parvati. Although they knew very well that Shiva did not like her to go, but she wants to go, so they accompanied her. And when she went to her father's house, there, her mother and all her sisters, with tears in their eyes, with so much of love and fondness, they embraced her and took her inside. But outside there was her father, Daksha, sitting in front of the Yajna Kund along with Brahmanas, and many sages and saints arrived from different parts of the world, and even demigods and everybody. He also noticed her coming, then he turned his face away. And all the Brahmanas also saw, they all wanted to stand up and respect her because she is wife of Lord Shiva. When they saw that Daksha is watching them, they were afraid if he respected her. So they also kept quiet. They also didn't speak anything. When Sati saw this, it was very painful to her heart. She said, you have offended a great Vaishnava, Lord Shiva, the topmost amongst all Vaishnavas. And now you are continuing to maintain malice in your heart. I feel ashamed to have obtained a body from you and to be called as Dakshayani. Daksha's daughter is called Dakshayani. So she decided to self-immolate herself because it was actually, even for a Kshatriya, it is said insult is, dishonor is worse than death, it is said. Here, because her great husband was insulted, Sati created a mystic fire from inside her body. She self-immolated herself completely. We find that. So, in this world, we can find this type of situation, what I told you just now, is not uncommon. Like some relative offending another person. Actually, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many, many instances mentioned. But we should know what should we do in our life. So when this pastime was spoken in one of the classes, So there was a question. So if somebody is insulted like this, should one commit suicide? Because Sati is setting an example. So can we follow her footsteps? So this question was asked. Actually, suicide is never allowed. Even in the worst of the situations, it's not allowed. In fact, if anyone commits suicide in this world, they have to be reborn and the balance amount of period has to be finished. For example, if you are destined to live for 80 years and somebody failed in the examination and they committed suicide at the age of 30 years only, then again they will be remaining in a ghostly body for a long period of time. And then they will come back into another human body and balance 50 years they have to complete in order to finish the destiny, whatever is destined like that. So actually this type of self-immolation or creating mystic fire and killing oneself is not generally done. Unless, like for example, Dhritarashtra, you find he is creating a mystic fire and quitting his body. You'll find in the forest. After Vidura trained him in devotion service, he went to the forest and the whole cottage burnt, and then Gandhari also entered into the flames. Now gone are those days when one can do such kind of things, isn't it? By leaving one's body, by creating mystic fire from within, or Gandhari entering into the funeral pyre of her husband. Is it not true? You know, how many women are capable of entering fire of their husband? So, and also the Sati's anger, there it is explained, if a Vaishnava is insulted, three things one should do. Either one should cut the tongue of the offender, or one should defeat the offender, or one should quit the place and go away to another place. Now certainly the first one we cannot do. Is it not true? It will become a police case, isn't it? And the second one, to defeat the offender, we should have sufficient knowledge. And otherwise one should plug the ears and flee from that place. One should not hear when one hears blasphemy. If you faithfully hear blasphemy from another person, that will destroy your faith, which is the rarest commodity for a devotee. Because the faith is such an important thing in spiritual life. In fact, faith is everything for a devotee in spiritual life. So, one should never entertain blasphemy or be eager to hear blasphemy. One should avoid hearing blasphemy. That is why when Sati saw that Lord Shiva was insulted, and she thought that despite Lord Shiva being insulted, I have committed a great mistake by coming to this place. She didn't quit that place, rather she self-immolated herself. This is a very unique incident in the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is extremely rare. Nor are we as qualified as Sati, nor are we such a great personality like Parvati. Of course, Sati quits her body and again she takes another body as Parvati again, over and over again. She comes as Parvati again. But we should not imitate this wrong example. But in the pace of Bhagavatam, it is taught when we face adversities in life, difficult situations in life, how should we face them? That is explained in many cases, about which we are going to speak today. One is the example of Vidura. See, Vidura, as you know, Vidura was originally one of the Dwadasha Mahajanas. One of the 12, Yamaraj. Yamaraj is one of the Mahajanas. He himself says that. Balir Vaya Sakir Vayam, he says. I am also one of the 12 Mahajans, he says. So once Yamaraj became very busily preoccupied with his management so much that he had a very fervent desire, when will the time come when I can take off from this and enter into devotion service wholeheartedly, fully. Sometimes you find there are so many planning and scheduling and arranging and organizing things have to be done, your head starts reeling. Of course, you have to see, studying Srimad Bhagavatam gives juice to the heart. And management, of course, management is it's like a necessary evil, we can say, in any organization. Like the laborious arrangements you have to make for conducting a camp that you all know. Run here, run there, do this, do that. You may ask, Prabhuji, is it not devotional service? How can you call it a necessary evil? Is it an evil? Is it not a part of devotional service? Yes, it is called evil in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. When Swayambhava Manu is handing over the charge to Priyavrata, that time it says, Vishaya Vishama Jalashaya, it says. Vishaya Vishama means he handed over the management of the whole creation, which is like a dark poison. He handed it over to Priyavrata and he got relieved completely. And then he went to forest and he became Yavanaprasthi after that. And why is it said like this? Because in the course of managing and administrating, one will have to find fault with so many devotees. One will have to find out who is better, who is inferior. So you have to assess the quality. Like you say, gold is superior, iron is inferior. Is it not true? Similarly, you have to make comparison and contrast between devotees. Who is good, who is bad. And to do this amongst Vaishnavas is a very risky business. And because when we are finding fault with somebody, that should be done only for the sake of service, not for the sake of ridiculing them. Similarly, when one is praising someone, that should be done completely objectively, without any chauvinism or favoritism. I like this devotee because he praises me. I don't like that devotee because he gave me a feedback. This kind of chauvinism can come. So one who takes the position of a manager has to be very careful and cautious, not to fall prey to nepotism or favoritism, or not fall prey to ridiculing and becoming unduly critical or all these qualities. So that's why manager job is a tough job. An example is Yamaraj. Yamaraj, once one Mandavya Muni, when he was living in a hermitage, some thieves came there and they hid themselves inside the hermitage. And when they were arrested by the police, along with that Mandavya Muni was also arrested. Sage was also arrested. And Mandavya Muni became very angry. And he was taken to the king and they took a lance and were about to pierce his body. And then it was realized that he was Niraparadi. He was relieved and allowed to go off. And then Mandavya Muni directly went to Yamaraj. And he asked him, Sir, tell me, what fault did I do that I was given this punishment? As far as I know, my life is spotless. How I am being punished? And then Yamaraj asked him to check the computer program, check the account. What happened to the sage? What did he do? And it was told that, in his childhood he played with a dragonfly or something. Like we all play, that dragonfly or butterfly you catch. And sometimes you tie a string to the tail end and you hang it down and it is flying. So he was told that you are playing with some fly by piercing it with an object or something in your childhood. That's why you were given this short-term punishment you were given. So Mandavya Muni became angry. He said the childhood mistakes or childhood pranks are done without much knowledge. They're done out of ignorance. And such a person doesn't deserve to be. It's coming? Hare Krishna. Charge is gone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Actually, you can always connect it to power. You don't have to put in battery. When there is power, you should put in power. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So he said, because you punished me when I was a child, because children's mistakes are forgiven generally. Let's not put in their sinful account. So it was a mistake on your part that you allowed such a punishment for me. So I curse you to become son of a Shudra, he said. So Yamaraj was very happy with this curse. It became a blessing in disguise for him. See, what is blessing in disguise? Imagine if somebody tells you, please eat this sugar cane and if you eat it, I'll give you 10 rupees. Who will not do it, isn't it? It's wonderful. You will say, why only one? Give me 2 more and give me 20 rupees more. You may say. Similarly, Yamaraj was just waiting, can I get little retirement from my position so that I can do recitation of Bhagavat and associating with devotees and living a pure life and traveling to all holy places. So that was his desire already in his heart. And here the situation was arranged by the Lord. Because he desired, the situation was arranged for him immediately. See, the Lord is there in the heart of everybody and he is just waiting to fulfill our desires. And you desire something and he fulfills immediately. So he was given relief from his post and then he could be born in this world as Vidura, Dasiputra, in the Kuru race. And Vidura was a very learned person, very wise person. And many people consulted him for wisdom, especially Dhritarashtra. And he was a very good counselor of Dhritarashtra and he gave a lot of good advice to him. And he is very dear to the heart of Pandavas, as uncle of the Pandavas. And also he is a disciple of Vedavyas. So he is very wise, very learned. And he is a great devotee, pure devotee of Lord Krishna. And Vidura and Vidurani, both of them are very, very great devotees. So much so that Krishna, without their invitation, went to their house to stay with them and ate from their hands. So such is the platform of Vidura. So this is the first incident I told you. Vidura did not feel insulted by Mandavya Muni when the insult was given to him. Rather, he converted that insult into good fortune. He made it into good fortune. How? He took it as an opportunity. For example, one of you is given a post for some period of time and then say you are told that you are not faring so well in the post, better you wash pots for the deities. You should be very happy. Because if I am causing damage to other devotees, better that I wash pots. One should be willing for that. And it is not a loss. Because actually all situations are ultimately not unknown to Krishna. They are known to Krishna and he is arranging it for our welfare to shape us, to shape up our personality, to bring the pure Vaishnava within us out. Father Krishna is arranging. And Krishna is the ultimate benefactor of the living entity. Krishna is actually completely pure-hearted and there is no mistake in whatever he decides and does. That confidence the devotee has. So he was very happy to be relieved. And then in his post, when Ariyama was officiating as Yamaraj for that period. And then Yamaraj came to this world and became Vidura. Now, while he was Vidura, another incident happened. See here. After the Pandavas returned from exile, Dhritarashtra had invited Vidura for consultation. And Vidura had advised his elder brother Dhritarashtra, you should now return the rightful share of the kingdom to Yudhishthir, for he has undergone great suffering on account of your offences. Surely you are afraid of the vengeful Bhima and Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has accepted the Pandavas as his kinsmen. You are maintaining offense personified, Duryodhana, as your son. And because he is envious of Krishna, you have become devoid of all auspiciousness. You should relieve yourself of this misfortune at once and thus do good to your entire family. Like that Vidura said. So Vidura is saying two things here. One thing he's saying is you should give the kingdom back to Pandavas now. They have finished the 12 years period now. Now it's the time to give it back. And another thing he's saying, because you are maintaining this offense personified, who is it? Duryodhana, who is envious of Krishna and envious of Pandavas. Because of that, all your auspiciousness is gone. If you want good fortune in your life now, you should do what I am telling you. If you want to do good to your entire family, don't satisfy the desires of this fellow Duryodhana. Please Lord Krishna by handing over the kingdom back to Pandavas. Duryodhana was present along with his younger brothers Karna and his maternal uncle Shakuni, his lips quivering in anger. Duryodhana replied, who asked the son of a kept mistress to come here Kept mistress means dasi. Who asked the son of a dasi to come here? He is so crooked that he spies on those under whose protection he grew up, so that he can favor the enemy. Throw him out of the palace at once, leaving him only with his breath. Like that he said. So whom is he insulting? Vidura. See, 3 insults he gave. He is saying, who asked the son of this dasi to come here? He is asking. And then he is saying he is so crooked that he is spying on those under whose protection he grew up. That means he is saying that this fellow was kept under our protection. We gave him bread and butter. We protected him. But he is acting against our interest by favoring the Pandavas. And he is turning against us, as it is saying. And he is favoring the enemy. Throw him out of the palace at once, leaving him only with his breath. You see, a superior never deserves to be treated like this. With such a verbal insult. Terrible insult. Even if somebody doesn't like someone, then these things have to be done very privately, confidentially. If Duryodhana was a cultured man, what he is supposed to do? He should take his father to the side and whisper in his ears. My dear father, I think this Vidura is becoming too much. He is too much favoring Pandavas. Better let him go and live with the Pandavas. So you can call him confidentially and tell him that we are not happy with his presence here. And if he likes Pandavas, then why should he be on our side? Let him be with them. You just tell him and dismiss him off. We don't want him in the palace anymore. Like that, he'll privately tell him, and then they will come. But he will continue to respect Vidura, as usual. That's ideal behavior. And then the Dhritarashtra may say that me and my family members Vidura, me and my family members have decided that we are not happy with your presence here in the palace. So kindly, you can relocate yourself to live with the Pandavas. This is ideal behavior. But here you find how, now you may ask, but Vidura also was calling Duryodhana as offense personified in his presence. Is it appropriate? Because Vidura spoke insulting words about Duryodhana, Duryodhana also did tit for tat. Somebody can say like that. But that is also wrong. Why? Because a superior always is in a superior position to scold a subordinate. And here Vidura's scolding is not done out of any malice towards anyone. Actually, what he is telling is truth. That Duryodhana is against Krishna himself, God himself, and is against the Pandavas. And he has repeatedly told several times to Dhritarashtra, even at the time of birth of Duryodhana, Vidura told Dhritarashtra, this child is braying like a donkey, you cast him away by giving him in death to somebody else. So, because if you give him to somebody else, then he won't be a Rajakumar, he won't be a Yuvaraj anymore. Then just like Karna was sent away, like that if Duryodhana is sent away, then your kingdom will be saved. But Gandhari and Dhritarashtra were attached to the child. They were not willing to lend him away in the beginning. That's why Vidura used to tell him always, I told you long before. You didn't hear. And just see now what kind of atrocities he is doing. Now he is going to be now Pandavas fulfilled the order given to them, 12 years of Vanavas. Now they have come back, still this fellow doesn't want to give back. You see? So, that's why Vidura thought, if I strongly speak in front of Duryodhana, maybe Duryodhana will leave. Because of insult, he will say that, okay, if you want the Pandavas to come and live as the kings, I am pushing off. I will go away. And then Dhritarashtra may cry that son is going away, but Vidura thought that is good only. Because if he goes away, then Pandavas can rule the world and everything will be proper. So, because Dhritarashtra was not implementing what Vidura has been telling him several times, now Vidura spoke in the presence of Duryodhana, that this is offense personified, is offending Krishna and offending the Pandavas, who are pure-hearted devotees of Krishna. And actually, Vidura speaking to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana like this is to bring some amount of repentance and reformation in the heart of Duryodhana. But the nature of Kala, or wicked people in this world, is Upadesho hi murkhanam prakopane shante, it is said. If you give Upadesh to a Kala or a wicked people, they become more aggravated. Like once upon a time, there were some birds living in a nest in a tree, very happily, very peacefully, and they were very intelligent birds because they had made the nest in such a way that not a drop of water can enter it. They had made it like that. So a monkey was also living in the same tree. So one day the rainy season came, it started raining, and the monkey's body became completely drenched because he had nowhere to go. So when the rain stopped, water was dripping everywhere slowly in drops. So the bird went to the monkey and said, "Oh, my dear friend, look at you. Your body has become so drenched. In summer season you could have built a house. And when the rainy season comes, you can peacefully live in such a house. And never mind, at least for the next year you build a house before the rains come. Otherwise, just look at you, how much you are suffering this terrible cold and the rains." When monkey saw the bird, he became angry. "Hey, you are giving me Upadesh? Just wait and watch. You are proud that you have a house, I will tear your house to pieces." And then the monkey took the house and like that he tore it into pieces and threw it off. And all the birds flew off from there. So then the wife bird told to the husband bird, "It was not appropriate for you to give Upadesh to this fool. Upadesho hi murkhanam prakopayana shante." Fools should not be given advice, you see. One who is a fool, it is always best to keep distance from a fool and not associate with fools or give Upadesh to fools. Upadesh should be given for those who are eager to learn. Learn, hear and implement in their lives. Similarly, to give advice to Duryodhana was inappropriate, it was not fit. But sometimes the great souls are so compassionate and so sympathetic that even if somebody is a fool, they somehow or other hope that he may change. They give Upadesh. And they are willing to accept insults. Okay, just like Lord Nityananda wanted to deliver Jagai Mata, isn't it? Although Lord has given them up, the devotees don't give them up. Devotees try to deliver them, hoping that someday this fellow will change. So Vidura was hoping that maybe Duryodhana may become friendly with Pandavas after hearing this strong talk. But did it happen? No. Rather, he became even more wild. And he's insulting Vidura like this. He's calling Vidura as Dasiputra in the public. He's calling him as a spy. He is calling him as a Pandava chauvinist. He is insulting him, telling him, "Throw him out of the palace and leave him only with his breath," he is saying. Being pierced through the ears by these worldly arrows, Vidura's heart certainly became afflicted. Now, even if you are a devotee, if somebody insults you, it causes you pain, certainly. Because we have some emotions. If one has no emotions, then one is a stone. Like Mayavadis say, we are desireless. Actually, nobody can become desireless. If somebody is completely desireless, they are nothing but a stone. Because stone has no emotion, because there is no soul in the stone, isn't it? So naturally, when one is insulted, it may cause pain, but a Vaishnava knows not to take personal insults very seriously. Even if somebody insults a Vaishnava, he will immediately forgive. That is the nature of a Vaishnava. Like you see, Parikshit Maharaj forgave Shringi. Ambarish Maharaj forgave Durvasa Muni. He forgave Durvasa Muni like that. So there is one beautiful verse in the Bhagavatam, Tiraskritha, Vipralabdha, Shapta, Kshipta, Hata api, Nasyatat Pratikurvanti. He says, Tiraskritha means if a Vaishnava is neglected. Vipralabdha means if a Vaishnava is cheated by somebody. Shapta, if somebody curses a Vaishnava. Like that he says all these things. Hata means even if Vaishnava is killed also by somebody, still the Vaishnava can forgive the person who is perpetrating such a pain to them. Like, Hata means Hiranyakashipu came to kill Prahalad. Prahalad forgave Hiranyakashipu. You see? Durvasa Muni came to kill Ambarish. This is the extreme thing you can do. Still Ambarish Maharaj forgave the Durvasa also, like that. Or somebody is neglected, somebody is insulted, one tolerates. But if somebody insults another Vaishnava, then they would become like fire. How can you insult? Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Nityananda was insulted, he called for chakra, chakra. He wanted to cut off the head of Jagai Madai, you see. So, but actually in our life, generally if some other Vaishnava is insulted, we don't feel so much pain because we have not yet become a proper Vaishnava. If we become proper Vaishnava, we cannot tolerate insult of any other Vaishnava. And at the same time, we become sometimes overly affected when somebody insults us. But here for Vidura, he got a bit affected, but immediately he altered his consciousness very quickly. That you will see now. See what he did. Vidura considered such an act of the external energy. What is external energy? Maya Shakti. Vidura considered such an act of Maya Shakti to be Lord Krishna's merciful way of detaching him from the diplomatic intrigues of palace life. Vidura was never attracted by the royal opulence of his brother, and he was always prepared to leave home to fully devote himself to the service of the Lord. Now when Vidura saw the arrival of this golden opportunity, he appreciated how the supreme energy of the Lord, although acting externally towards Duryodhana, was acting internally to help him. For this reason, Vidura was not at all sorry. He actually thanked Duryodhana within his heart as he placed his bow at the door and then quickly embarked upon a pilgrim's journey. You see? So, the energy of the Lord acted externally on whom? Duryodhana, and internally on Vidura. What is the meaning of that? Who is internal potency? Srimati Radharani. Who is external potency? Durga. So Durga is acting on Duryodhana and Radharani is acting on Vidura's heart. Internal potency. What is the meaning of this? Duryodhana was acting out of false pride and false ego and speaking very sharp words. But Vidura did not take those sharp words from an external point of view, external energy point of view. If he did, there would have been a big war. There would have been a big fight. He didn't fight. Rather, he converted into internal. And what is that internal thing? He thought that this is an opportunity for me to quit the palace and then go on a pilgrimage to all the holy places. So he utilized it. He converted iron into gold. That's the beauty of this speciality. So in this way, he utilized the very negative situation and he converted it into a positive situation. Like in our life also, we may be faced with some negative situations. For example, somebody is posted in a job where there are no devotees. There are absolutely no devotees. And the nearest ISKCON temple may be 500 miles away. And you are in a remote place and you go to college, all are karmis. So it's a negative situation for you. But a devotee can become extra alert. Now that I am alone, let me be just like Jada Bharat was extra alert, isn't it? We say, what is that? The cat which is burned by the hot milk, Jala, what is it? Jala they say? Fung fung kar pita hai, you say, What is that? Jala? दूध का जला छाछ को भी फूक फूक कर पीता है, they say. That once a cat saw some milk kept somewhere, so the cat put the mouth in that, immediately it was very hot, immediately got ulcer in the mouth. And he realized, my Lord, it is so hot. And for a long time he suffered from the pain of that. Then anything the cat would see white, that it would do. Even if somebody served buttermilk also, he would do like that. Similarly, our Jada Bharata was extra alert, not to fall prey to Maya. At every moment he was extra alert like that. So, a devotee is always alert. Similarly, when you are living in a place where there are no temples, no devotees, no association, you are alone, then one may be extra alert. That one gets up in the morning, does Mangalarti, chanting Narsingharti, one hears the lectures of the spiritual master, and then does his duty, work as a duty, and again he is keeping in touch with devotees through phone. I have seen devotees like that, very careful and very alert. So although they were in a negative situation, they made it positive by taking full advantage of association, even sometimes more than those who are always surrounded with devotees, like that. So, in the same manner, Vidura actually converted the insult into a spiritual blessing, and he gave up his counselorship in the court of Dhritarashtra. Anyway, this fellow never heard. Dhritarashtra was given repeated advice so many times, he never took those good advice. So he left him, and then he went on a Tirtha Yatra. You see? Of course, Vidura could have directly approached Lord Krishna at Dwaraka, but being a humble Vaishnava, he considered himself to be contaminated by Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana's association. Knowing that one cannot be 100% devoted to Lord unless freed from all sinful reactions, Vidura considered himself to be unfit for Lord's association. For this reason, he decided to visit the holy places of pilgrimage. By fixing his mind upon Lord Krishna, Vidura traveled to many of the tirthas like Ayodhya, Dwaraka, Mathura, and he dressed as a mendicant without caring for his body so that he would not be recognized by anyone, not even his relatives. See, if he dressed as Vidura, everybody will recognize and say, oh, you come here, you come, everybody. So he dressed as a mendicant and he traveled all around. So this is one section of Bhagavatam. There is another small section of Bhagavatam also, which talks about a similar principle, how to convert. We have another 10-15 minutes. We have, huh? Yeah. So this is about one famous king called as King Anga. You see, this Raja, Anga Raja, he was such a pure soul. I want to read that section so that.
Hare Krishna. So the class will go until 7:45 and then 15 minutes question answers. So devotees who have to go for classes, they may accordingly take prasad behind in the class and they can continue the class. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Here is an example of Anga, how he converted misfortune into good fortune. So this Anga Raja, he performed Ashwamedha sacrifice. See, who is this Anga, if you want to know? There are many generations which come after Dhruva. In the fifth generation after Dhruva Maharaj appeared Chakshusha, who became the sixth Manu. Chakshusha begot 12 sons, and the youngest son, Ulmuka, begot 6 sons, the eldest of whom was named Anga. And then there is a description about Anga. See, the beauty of Bhagavatam is that it will talk generation after generation. This fellow had 10 sons, and each of them had 2 or 3 sons, daughters, and they had this, and all the names are given. It goes on and on like this. This fellow begot so and so in the womb of so and so, and it will go on, and you will think, my Lord, what am I hearing? Names after names after names and dynasties. And then one particular name will come, and immediately Shukadeva Goswami will put a sudden break. And then he will say, this king, Anga, was a very special soul. Because he's a devotee of the Lord. As soon as a devotee of the Lord comes in the dynasty, immediately he will put a zoom light, immediately. Then take the camera more near and study his life, what all he did in his life, like that. Like in your family also, you can say, your great-grandfather had so-and-so the son, and then he had a son, and he had a son, and then your father had so-and-so, you the son, then he'll put zoom light on you. And this fellow was not ordinary soul, he became Hare Krishna devotee. You know? Because nobody has done it in the family. Although many of them decided to, become Lord's devotee. Like that only. Because if you become devotee, you become special. Say, what is that? Jai Krishna Bhaje, Sai Bada Chatur, it is said. Devotee is very intelligent. That's why, and why Shukadeva Goswami is highlighting on a devotee? So that we can learn how to become ideal devotee in our life also. So once King Anga, he performed Ashwamedh sacrifice. The Brahmanas are all very qualified. And these highly qualified Brahmanas knew how to invite the demigods to come during the yajna sacrifice. You see, when you perform a yajna, there are two ways the demigods accept the Havishanna. Havishanna is the annam offered with ghee to Lord Vishnu. That's called Havishanna. So, when you perform a sacrifice, sometimes you will find all the devatas will arrive around the sacrificial arena, and they'll be standing with their hands like this. And whatever grains you throw in the fire, mixed with ghee, that will come in the hands of the devatas. And one can see the devatas eating them. So, this is one type of sacrifice. Another type of sacrifice is that you offer to Agni, and the Agni will reach the respective share to the devatas. How the grains are transported through Agni to the devatas is beyond our comprehension from material point of view. But it is said devatas don't eat anything unless it is offered to Vishnu. That is why if the human beings don't perform yajna, devatas will all be starving without that. Fortunately, Prabhupada started Hare Krishna movement. So every day we are offering so much to Krishna. So all the devatas also, actually when you offer to Krishna, the whole prasad becomes, the whole bhoga becomes purified. And it becomes eatable for the devatas also. Then they also get nourished by that. So, in the sacrifice of Anga, the Brahmanas were highly qualified and they were welcoming the devatas to come, but no devata was coming. And Anga was very worried about it. The priest then informed Anga, O king, although we have properly offered the ghee in sacrifice, the demigods will not accept it. We know that you collected all of the sacrificial paraphernalia with great care, and certainly our chanting of the Vedic mantras was not deficient in any way. Therefore, we cannot understand why the demigods should feel insulted or neglected and thus refuse to accept their sacrificial shares. Upon hearing this, King Anga became very aggrieved. He took permission to break his silence and inquired. Because during yajna, the king wouldn't speak a word. And we took permission from them, and now we want to speak. My dear Brahmanas, kindly tell me what offense I committed so that the demigods refuse to come here and accept their shares of the sacrificial offerings. Just see, this is the mood of a devotee. That as soon as there is a problem, what is wrong with me? Because of which this problem is happening. Like that he is asking. Rather than asking, why these demigod fellows are like this? I think they have become very proud, Like that he didn't ask. What he asked? What sins did I commit? He's asking. That the demigods are not coming. They are refusing to come. What offense did I commit? The head priest replied, O king, you have not been the least bit sinful or offensive in this life. Not even within your mind, he said. Not even within your mind. Can you imagine such a pure soul Anga was? Not even within your mind. But in your previous life, you performed sinful activities that have now rendered you sonless, in spite of your being otherwise qualified. Now if you pray to the Supreme Lord for a son, and then perform a particular sacrifice for this purpose, your desire will certainly be fulfilled. When Lord Hari comes to benedict you, then all of his servants, the demigods, will also accompany him to accept their shares. And then the priest offered oblations to Lord Vishnu. A Yajna Purush, blackish person appears from the, is Lord Vishnu appears from the sacrifice, who was dressed in white and carried a golden pot filled with sweet rice. After taking permission from the Brahmanas, King Anga very respectfully received the pot of sweet rice in his joined hands. Then after smelling the preparation, the king offered a portion to his wife, Sunitha. After eating the food which had the power to produce a male child, the queen was impregnated by the king. Thereafter, in due course of time, Sunitha gave birth to a son named Vena. And because she was the daughter of death personified, the child was considered to be partially in the dynasty of irreligion. Which means this Sunitha, she is daughter of death personified. So her son Vena assumed the mother's quality. See, in Bhagavatam it is said the son gets the qualities of the mother and the daughter gets the qualities of the father. So all of you also, if you have some devotional inclination, it is likely to have come from your mother. If your mother has a devotional, religious inclination, then you also become like that, son also. And if mother is very materialistic, then the son also becomes very materialistic. Similarly, the daughter, her qualities come from the father. If the father is devotionally minded, then the daughter also becomes devotionally minded. Of course, you may have some qualities of your father and mother, but predominantly the qualities you get is from the mother, actually. The son gets from the mother. So, who was the father of Sunitha? Death person. So, she got the father's quality. You understand, no? She being daughter, the daughter got the quality of the father, and the mother's quality was transferred to the son, Vena. So, Vena was a very terrible fellow. Now you will hear about Vena. So that is why it is said you get the grandfather's quality. Like the Vena, he is saying here, a daughter generally takes after her father and son takes after his mother. Therefore Vena took after his grandfather, and so he grew up to be very irreligious. So if you are grandfather, you get the grandfather's quality. You get. That is father of your mother. That quality comes. These circumstances are certainly very unusual. But the fact is that sometimes the Lord arranges an unfortunate wife or a bad child for his devotee, so that he can become more easily detached from household life. This is the fact. As a boy, Vena used to go to forest and unnecessarily kill innocent deer with his bows and arrows. His very appearance was very frightening, and as the citizens would see him, they would cry out, "Here comes that cruel Vena!" They would cry and run away. The young Vena was so malicious that while playing with his boys of his own age, he would mercilessly kill them. Can you imagine? While playing with other children, kill the children. As if they were animals meant for slaughter. King Anga used to punish his son in various ways, hoping to reform him. But in spite of all endeavors, he was unable to bring Vena to the path of righteousness. Repeatedly he tried. You see, sometimes children, sama beda dama danda, you say, no? First you speak some sweet word to a child, beta come here, you should not do like this, You see, you should share and enjoy, give the toys to that child, you also enjoy. He doesn't hear, then you may say, see, if you behave properly, I will give you some gifts. Okay, you like the lollipop very much, right? So if you avoid being cruel for 1 week, I will give you 1 lollipop. So the father tried many things. Sama beda. And then another thing is divide and rule. Divide means what? Whatever gives him strength, you strip him of that. Don't allow him to get strength. Okay, he is getting strength as a son of a king, and is roaming around as a Yuvaraj and doing nonsense. So lock him up, put him in a jail, and or keep him in the house, like in house arrest or something. Like that he may do that. And the last is what? If a person is still doing nonsense, then danda you have to give. So Angaraja tried all possible means to reform Vena, but Vena was not getting reformed. While grieving over his failure, King Anga thought, persons that have no son are certainly very fortunate. They must be worshipped They must have worshipped the Supreme Lord in previous lives, so that now they do not have to suffer the unbearable misery of having a bad son. Of course, in one sense, a bad son is better than a good one, for he makes one's life at home intolerable, and thus does not allow attachment for house and family to develop the way a good son does. Indeed, a bad son makes the home so hellish that any intelligent man very easily becomes detached from such a family life. And King Anga passed sleepless nights while absorbed in such thoughts, and thus he became completely indifferent to household life. Then, once in the dead of night, he silently got up from bed while his wife was sleeping soundly. Unseen by others, he left his very opulent palace and proceeded to the forest. The next morning, when it was understood what had happened, the king's priests, ministers, friends and relatives, as well as the ordinary citizens, became highly alarmed. The people began to search for Anga all over the world. And they all returned home disappointed. Either it is said. So in this way Anga fled to the forest. So we are learning 5 lessons from this Anga's pastime, which I would like to share with you. First one is the Anga not blaming the demigods for not coming, but blaming himself. That's the first lesson. Second lesson, if a person is sinless or even free from offenses, still he can suffer. Why? Because he might have committed sins in the previous life, past lives, isn't it? So whenever you suffer in your life, don't blame others. You learn this lesson. Don't push the blame on others. I didn't do it and they're insulting me. Like somebody asked His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, that Maharaj, I didn't do a mistake and I was caught for the so-called mistake and scolded and all that, And later on it was proved that I am a niraparadi. Why did this happen to me, For no reason. Maharaj said, in your previous life you must have got credit for something which you did not do. He said. So that is why you are getting scolding for some mistake which you did not commit. You are selling. So don't blame others. Thirdly, a daughter gets father's nature and son gets mother's nature. I told you about that. That is the third one. And the fourth one, sometimes the Lord arranges an unfortunate wife or a bad son for his devotee, so that the devotee can become easily detached from household life. And the fifth lesson, be wise to retire in time. Be wise to retire in time. At appropriate time we should retire from household life and not be attached. Panchashavurdvam manam brajet, it is said. So there is a tendency sometimes, it is said, Rupavati Bharya Shatru, it is said. If wife is very beautiful looking, the husband repeatedly seeing her every day, morning and afternoon, evening and night, watching her again and again and hearing her sweet words and living in household situation, he becomes deeply more and more attached and the Hridaya Granthi forms. You have heard that verse? Tayor mito Hridaya Granthi mahuhu. What that was? Pumsahastriya mituni bhavame tad tayor mito Hridaya Granthi mahuhu ato griha kshetra sutapta vittair janasya mohoyam maham mameti. So one gets trapped by moha, illusion. If one becomes attached to wife and children. If one has an intelligent son and a good son and a wise son, and one has a beautiful wife, then one thinks this home itself is so wonderful. And it is very difficult to detach such people. Come to Krishna consciousness, dedicate your life, it's difficult. If everything is very favorable. So, which goes to show an interesting thing. Sometimes if Krishna sees that his devotee is becoming complacent in life, he is satisfied in material life, then Krishna may give a pinch to a devotee. by creating an unfavorable situation by which devotee will develop detachment for that material situation and run to Krishna's lotus feet. So you have two choices. Either be complacent and draw the attention of Krishna to make Krishna create detachment for you, or you yourself be detached from all material situations and be a good devotee. Actually, if you are a surrendered devotee, then Krishna has no reason to, create some, situation for you. Now somebody may say, okay, Prabhuji, if I am properly doing devotion service and I am not attached to my material life, so will there not be any problem? Actually, for pure devotees also Krishna may create problem. For what purpose? To glorify them, like Prahlad Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj. But if a pure devotee is not that pure, then Krishna will not unnecessarily give him fear by creating such situation. Prahlad Maharaj never feared the troubles created. Ambarish Maharaj never feared the trouble created. One man came to Prabhupada and said, that my son has joined your temple and he has shaved up and he's become brahmachari and all my family members are lamenting. So I have come to take him back and all that. So the Prabhupada was preaching to him, and then this man slowly was becoming a kind of devotee, slowly. And then Prabhupada said, you see, in this world, if one can get Krishna's mercy, it is extremely rare. If you get prasad, it is Krishna's mercy. If you get some knowledge about Krishna, it's Krishna's mercy. So, but when one gets special mercy, then one becomes a full-time devotee of Krishna. And then Prabhupada showed, your son got special mercy. He said, then father understood. Everybody else gets normal mercy and my son got special mercy. And then Prabhupada asked, what do you want? Do you want mercy or special mercy? And the mercy is good enough for me. Because I have to go back, I have my wife and family and everything. So Prabhupada explained. So if you are not ready for special mercy, Krishna will not push it on you, don't worry. Krishna will only give you special mercy only when you are ready for it. So we should never fear Krishna in our spiritual life, that maybe he will put me in some trouble. Every man who wants to marry thinks my wife should be fair and good looking. She should look like Mahalakshmi. She should be very beautiful. She should be humble. She should be simple. She should be, but she should also be a software engineer earning 50,000 rupees. Everybody thinks. Krishna will say, oh, you are planning in your mind. Just wait and watch. So, in whatever wife or whatever children Krishna gives, one has to accept it as Krishna's gift. And ultimately it's ordained by the Lord. Nobody knows what future holds for them. And Angaraja, you see, he was so spotless even in his mind. What to speak of the body. Such a pure soul. So, we should not think that in our account is clean slate and we are sinless or we are offenseless. We don't even know what sins and offenses we have committed in the previous life and in the present life. So, two incidents I told you, Vidura and Anga Maharaj, from whose life we learn how to convert misfortune into good fortune. And prior to these two, I told you the story of Sati, how when she faced an unfortunate situation, actually she did not convert it into good fortune. Rather she self-immolated, which is actually a wrong example, which we should not follow. But because she happens to be wife of Lord Shiva, and she did it because of the insult of Lord Shiva, that is not condemned on her platform. But that is not an example that one should emulate. So, the general tendency in the material world is when you are faced with great pressure, emotional pressure, people may either quit the scene and run away, or they may commit suicide, or the relationships break. All these things happen. But these two pastimes, they teach us how to spiritualize a material situation. How to spiritualize not only a material situation, an unfavorable material situation can be converted to a spiritual situation. Like Vidura went for Tirtha Yatra and Anga went to forest. And both of them took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see, Ambarish Maharaj also, when Durvasa Muni brought that huge demon, immediately Ambarish Maharaj thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, in his mind. Always, you will see. So whenever there is danger, the first person we should think of is Krishna. Because he is called as a Abhaya Charanara Bindu Visena, Abhaya Charan. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki. So I can take some questions for 10-15 minutes. Anybody has to go to college by 8 o'clock? Yeah, I can take prasad. Huh? Yeah. Yes. Mic? Yeah, where is the mic? This mic only? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Guruji, I am from a very rude background, village. So we spoke there, I spoke there anything and everything. Means I just don't care. Like I spoke to my father also, anything and everything. Like I can call my father fool also, miss. That doesn't matter so much, miss. Na? Even if relatives and all are there. So, miss, external respect is not given at all. Miss, like I can just put my hand on my father and talk. Miss, that doesn't matter so much in village. So, in devotee circle, so sometimes I speak and after sometimes I come to know how I spoke like this. Miss, I don't come to know many of the times. So it becomes insult for many devotees. Miss, I personally feel that. Miss, how to avoid it? Miss, I don't come to know that I spoke. Miss, why I spoke like this.
Okay, if you feel that some devotees will give you feedback also. Maybe your seniors may give feedback. Because when somebody is insulted by you, they go and report to seniors, and your counselor or your seniors may call you privately and tell you that, Prabhu, your behavior seems to be a bit harsh behavior. You have to be a little careful while dealing with devotees. They may tell you. So when you hear such feedback, what should be our response? See, one way to respond is to say, this is what I am. This is what God has made me like this. So whoever is around me, they have to tolerate. This is a wrong attitude. And what is the right attitude? Like you rightly said now, I come from a village background and I have been rude or crude or whatever. While dealing with relatives, friends, I have been very jolly, and sometimes in certain villages people talk very loudly, In villages, you've seen that? Very loud talk, their voice is like already like an inbuilt microphone they have. Like that. And when you come to cities, actually in villages also people move their hands and legs very freely. Like you want to call somebody, in village they will say like this, hey, come here, like this. And in city, because it's a congested place, people just shake hands like this. Good morning, like this. You see, they don't move their body so much, and they speak also very softly, very gently in city. So, you see, if you are coming from a village to town and town to city, then as we say, do in Rome as Romans do. We have to learn the art of, like for example, if somebody gives me water. If I drink like this sitting in the Vyasasana, people see my nose is going into my glass of water, drinking like this, sipping and drinking. People may not appreciate it. You have to drink like this, isn't it? So these are all cultural aspects, behavioral aspects, like how to behave on a dining table. In a dining table, one should not create a mess or a noise. Similarly, while dealing with one another, how should we speak with equals, with superiors, with younger ones, juniors? So you are in a learning mode now, and eventually people have to see a transformation in you. If they see that this boy was like this in his first year, now in his second year he is more changed, in his third year even more refined, and I have seen people changing actually. And now in the midst of devotees it's all the more important, because devotees, such things can turn into offenses. Because devotees may take an offense and that will affect your devotion service. Like even if you are not offending somebody, but they took offense, that can affect your devotion service. Like Rupa Goswami laughed once when there was a Leela Spurti in his heart. And then one Vaishnava who was limping with his feet was walking. And then he thought Rupa Goswami is laughing at me, and he took an offense. And that offense, what happened? Because that offense, the Leela Smriti immediately disappeared from his mind. And he felt a vacuum. And he was wondering, what happened? And then he couldn't find out the reason, because that Vaishnava went away. Then he met Sanatana Goswami and he asked. Then he came to know. So, actually that Vaishnava had gone to Sanatana Goswami and told him that, I don't know, Rupa Goswami is a great soul, but he's laughing at me for my lame leg. Sanatana said, what are you saying? Impossible. I don't think Rupa Goswami will do ever such a thing. Wait a minute, he said. Then Sanatana Goswami closed his eyes and he tuned to spiritual world. Same station. Whatever station Rupa Goswami was accessing, spiritual world. And he saw this Leela, beautiful Leela, where Srimati Radharani was, decorating her hair and dressing up herself very beautifully. And all the gopis were around her. And suddenly Krishna came there. And all the gopis were about to make noise, and Krishna said, shh, nobody should say anything. So all the gopis saw Krishna there, but Radharani was one who didn't see Krishna. And then when she took a mirror and saw, and behind she saw Krishna's face, immediately she felt very shy that I have been decorating myself like this, and immediately she closed her eyes and everybody had a big laughter. And Rupa Goswami also had a laughter. Some people say this Leela, other people say another Leela, where Radharani wanted to get a flower. So it comes in that little Krishna also, you will see this. And Radharani is trying to catch the flower, it's like this. She's not able to catch, she's trying. And then she's telling her friend, hey Lalita, hey Vishaka, she's calling everybody. And all of them are coming, everybody tries, they're not able to. And Krishna wants to help her, so he climbs up the tree and he presses the branch. And the branch comes down, and it's come so close. She says, I don't know how the branch has come down to give me the flower. She's saying, and then as she catches the flower, with one hand she's catching the branch, and another hand she's catching the flower. And then Krishna leaves the branch. And then it just goes up, and she's screaming. So everybody had a great laughter. So Rupa Goswami also laughed, seeing this Leela in his heart, when he was accessing this Leela. Now Sanatana Goswami saw the same Leela. Then he told that Vaishnava, and that Vaishnava felt, oh, this was the reason I misunderstood Rupa Goswami. Again he started lamenting. Alas, alas, I offended Rupa Goswami, such a great soul. I offended thinking that he is offending me. This was my offense. So, and Sanatana Goswami said, don't worry. And then in another version of the story, it is said, Sanatana Goswami had told Rupa Goswami, call all the Vaishnavas for prasadam. And the Vaishnava who doesn't come for prasad is the person whom he offended. Then all the Vaishnavas come. This is another version of the story. And then this Vaishnava doesn't come. And then Rupa Goswami goes to him and asks him what is the matter, and then he sorts it out. And once the matter is sorted out and they both offer obeisances to each other and embrace each other, and then they both say, now let us go and hear Krishna Katha from Sanatana Goswami. And they both go. And they are flooding their hearts, hearing more and more Krishna Katha, that all the material pains and vibrations created in the heart, that is driven out completely by flooding the heart with Krishna Katha. All of you, for example, in your life also, if you had a little tussle with a devotee, and then you sorted it out, still some kind of traces are lingering in the heart. How many of you agree? You know this? Correct? It doesn't go away fully. It takes time. Sometimes even after years also it doesn't go. When you look at the devotee, the first that thing comes to mind. Then the other thing. That is why we should be very careful in dealing with devotees. And that caution, if you exercise, if you are sincere, then devotees will develop faith in you eventually. What you are asking is not only for you, it's for most of the devotees. There are very few devotees who come from very cultured families where they are very, like our Bhaktichara Swami, he's made the in charge of, Vaishnava etiquette minister. Such a refined speech, extremely polite and extremely sensitive. He can know what is going on in your mind. He can very empathic in speaking. Otherwise, we all come from different type of backgrounds, families. and we might have been very crude and rude and all that. And we have to change our behavior. It's very important. Like, I come from a family where everybody would talk very loud. We come from village also. Then when I was in my third standard, we came to town. Then, of course, I was in town for quite some time, till my polytechnic days. Then for college, I came to city. I saw that there is a big difference between city people and village people. So in village, we used to talk very loud. So when I would go to meet Bhaktirasam Maharaj in Chaupari temple, I would talk to him in the ashram, Maharaj, I heard in the Chitraketu past time you said, and he said, Radhesham, soft. Please speak softly. This is a small ashram and some devotees are taking rest. Some devotees are reading in that room. Some devotees are chanting in that room. There were actually, it was only one hall like this divided with plywoods, into separate rooms. So speak softly. Then I would say, yes Maharaj, Chitraketu, when you told the past time, and then gradually my volume will increase. Again back to, it will come back to the original. At that point again he will tell me, please, take it down. So, we all come from different type of backgrounds. Actually sometimes when you speak loudly, people think you are angry also. They imagine you are angry, although you are not angry actually. Similarly, one devotee was telling me, Prabhuji, when you tell anything very loudly, your eyes become dilated and you appear angry. I said, I'll try to keep my eyes not so dilated when I'm speaking. It's very difficult. So, our body language and our tone matter a lot. Actually, scientists have found out that, the motors, we call it in the brain, no? There are cognition motors are there. They say that 60%, of, actually there are two things. One is a sight, another one is a sound. So they say that when you speak in a certain tone, people judge what you are saying on your tone. And also they see with sight your face cut, how you speak, your eyes, your face, is that dissatisfaction or is that pleasure, is that joy? They see all these things. And they say that this cognition mechanism is made in such a way that this body language and the sound which you give, that reaches much more faster than before they can comprehend the meaning. Comprehending of the meaning takes, I will get you the exact detail, I have it in my notebook, I have noted down. Which means the pace at which people look at your face and hear the tone of your voice, that is practically 12,000 times faster than the ability of the brain to comprehend the words spoken by you. Which means, like I am speaking something in the mic now, it is certainly reaching your ears, but for the brain to comprehend the meaning of what I am saying, there is a lag. It takes longer time. But before that, your brain judges what I am saying based on what you are seeing me. That is why, for example, if you smilingly chastise somebody, they don't feel any pinch. But you gravely appreciate somebody also, still they are doubtful, is he really appreciating? Prabhuji, you are sure, no? You understand? You understand, no? That is somebody, you smilingly you say, you rascal, you naughty guy. You have to smile up to the ears. And people think, you are so nice. How sweetly Prabhuji is slapping me. You understand? So because the body language reaches your brain faster than the content of what you are speaking. That is why. These things they teach in the companies also. You will read in management books, you will read these things. So that is why they say it takes less nerves to smile than to frown, it is said. Frowning takes very long, frowning draws a lot of energy, but smiling actually makes you more energetic actually, it gives you energy. So that is why it is said, in our dealing with others, if we have certain innate, not innate actually, they are acquired tendencies from parents and grandparents and our culture from which we come, and the books we have read, the movies that we have watched, and and the imprints in our brain. So we have to change those scripts over a period of time as especially we have come to devotional service now. And we have good chance because there are many gentlemanly people in this movement. So by dealing with them, you can make friendship with those whom you are very attracted to, especially those who have refined behavior, and then they can help you to refine the way you speak, the way you deal with situations, the way you deal with people, isn't it? That was a very good question. I believe this question is relevant to all of us. Thank you, Vishnu Prabhu, right? Brilliant question. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, thank you very much. So converting misfortune into good fortune. Remember this always and implement it in your everyday life. Hare Krishna. You want to say something?